my gosh. Look at all those ghosts gathering around the frickin' party people. Oh, and in that other room, those people in that ghost tour better watch out. Oh, they came for a vacation over in that room, and they're getting a lot more than they bargained for. This is some great footage. Jeez, don't just startle people and walk up on them like this, especially in a haunted house. This place is not to be messed with, you know? You must have gotten separated from your group or something. I'm with the film crew, as you might have guessed by my fancy equipment. Well, you know, we're here because we heard about all these different groups of people gathering in this house. This house is notorious for being haunted, so me and my crew, we were like, let's go. Let's do some creeping and peeping, and let's see what is gonna go down at this haunted house. So we expected to get some great footage of some haunting, and from this room I could see in a couple of the other rooms that ghosts are really kind of surrounding some of these groups. There are these vacationers who wanted to have a good time. They wound up here. Then I noticed in one other room, there's these people who are just partiers. They've got drinks in their hands, yet ghosts are trailing after them. And then there's these ghost tour peeps. Now, you would think they would know better than to go into haunted house, but I guess they want to see ghosts, so I don't know. Did they get more than they bargained for, or what? I don't know. They're all trapped in different rooms. Luckily, we just came here to document, you know, as I said, creeping and peeping, and that's all we do. We just observe. We get all the juicy freaking details about what everyone else is doing and what's scaring them and what are they reading, because as you may have heard, if you read books, you can actually escape this place. So that's pretty cool. Luckily, we're not like involved in any of that. We're just here to observe. Oh God, are we stuck here now too? Well, I guess if I'm in this thing, I better get to reading so I can escape the haunted house, aka Escape the Readathon. Let me grab my books and let me think about what I could read. Perhaps I might pick up a few
paperbacks from hell.
What better books to try to escape a haunted house than some books that apparently came from hell? Alright guys, until I find the right book, I'm gonna keep filming. See you in a minute, and I'll tell you about what I'm reading. Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, including books. But this is a vlog, so welcome to the vlog, and I am reading. Yes, I am reading to try to escape the haunted house, for Escape the Readathon, which, as you may know, I am a co-host for. I'm on Team Film Crew, as you just saw in that little intro. So I am reading 2 paperbacks from hell right now. I am about 70% into the book Familiar Spirit, and I am buddy reading that with Katrina and also Andrew. Katrina is on Team Partiers, Andrew is on Team Ghost Tour. They're both co-hosts as well. I'm loving it so far, and it's just wild. There's been freaking weird toads named Lunch. There's been freaking possessed cats. There's been a weird love thing in this circle, and then everyone's like making out, and the dude feels really bad, and the girl's just like,
whatevs, it's fine, it wasn't really us, we were possessed or something.
Anyway, the guy feels really guilty, she does not. It's a whole big thing. It's wonderful so far. I'm really having a great time. It's just really well written. Lisa Tuttle, I've read her collection of short stories called Nest of Nightmares and have loved that. But I'm actually liking this more because I'm not the hugest fan of short story collections in general, but I really loved hers. But this, I just like a cohesive story, and I love things to do with, like, demons, possession, black magic, and this has, like, elements of some of that stuff. And last night, I also started Death Song, and I'm only about 42 pages in, and this shit is cray-cray. This is wild. Like, at first, it takes place, like, way back in the day, and I don't even know this dude who's, like, an evil sorcerer who practices black magic. I don't know what you call him exactly. Anyway, he steals a baby, and he's like,
yeah, I'm gonna sacrifice this baby, yeah.
And then he tries to freaking find out the lyrics to this powerful song, because apparently songs are what does magic, at least for this sorcerer dude and his followers. So he's trying to learn this ultimate song, and this is right at the beginning, so it's not really a spoiler. And when he goes to, like, perform the ceremony to try to learn the song, this book is like,
yo, bitch, nah, not right now. You gotta wait centuries to learn this song, and some just random person's gonna sing it, who's not even a bad person. They're just gonna sing it.
And then we fast forward to way later, and we're, like, following a country singer. And yeah, she may or may not sing the song. Anyway, it's really crazy so far, and we're only, like I said, less than 50 pages in, as stuff has happened. The first part with the evil sorcerer dude was weird. He was practicing the black magic. The scene with, like, the kid was wild and way too, like, hardcore. If you're sensitive about, like, kids getting hurt and stuff, do not read this, because, like, page frickin' 5, I was like, oh shit, like, this shit's crazy. This shit is hardcore. Anyway, I'm saying this shit is, quote, a lot, like that phrase. I don't mean to. So that is what is up so far. I'm going to continue reading both, and maybe I'll make this a Paperbacks from Hell vlog or something. We will see how it turns out, if I read a third book or not, but so far, I am enjoying both of these, and that is awesome, because sometimes vintage horror can be, like, a huge miss. Like, huge. So far, these are pretty fast-paced for being vintage horror books. Usually they're very slow in some cases. Not these. The action's kind of getting started right away. Not as much backstory. Still a little, but not in a bothersome way. Alright guys, that is it for now. I will check in later. Are you really gonna keep throwing shirts at me?
I am.
No, you're not. Don't. That's ridiculous. Seriously, tell them all how you love laundry so much.
I hate laundry.
No, you don't. You do it so much.
I do it once or twice a week.
And then you, like, put it up right away, like
Well,
someone
yes.
weird.
You know, like an adult.
I'm an adult. Sometimes adults like to leave things in piles.
Sometimes.
Yeah, they say that smart people do it. Because they don't have time for the little menial tasks of life. They have their brains on better
That's something
things.
smart people came up with to try and cover up their laziness.
No.
Yes.
Whatevs. Hello, hello. It is the next day, and I finished some frickin' books, so let me tell you about what I finished. So I was reading on Kindle Familiar Spirit, which I told you guys was a buddy read between my friends Katrina at Katrina Brown and Andrew from It Came From The Page. Finished it, and frickin' loved it. So that book's by Lisa Tuttle, and I really like her writing, and I love possession stories, so maybe I was just apt to like this no matter what. I'm leaning towards a 5-star because I just had a great time with it, even though there were these absurd elements where the main character, Sarah, would go to the house, feel like there was something going on, get confronted by this spirit demon dude, and then leave. Then she'd be on her way away from the house, and then she'd say, wait, no, I should go back and confront this freaking thing. I'm stronger than it thinks. I can stand up to this. And then she'd go back. Then she just kept going back to the house and then leaving and then going back and then leaving and then arguing with herself about why she should go back and stand up to the thing right then and there. So that was a little absurd and ridiculous, but I still personally loved it. I had such a good time reading it. It just felt like a 5. I made a little more progress on Death's Song. This won't be for everybody. This does have some very off-putting language where, you know, bad characters or evil characters are saying bad, disrespectful things, offensive things, especially for this day and age. You know, back then, you could write characters who say things like that. That was, you know, not unusual. But when you go into this day and age and you're reading something from back then, it's kind of abrasive. It takes you aback. So just be warned, do not go picking this up if you don't want to read, like, crazy things from back in the 80s where characters are saying just out there offensive things. This definitely has that. And also the plot is insane, bonkers, crazy. I'm loving this. So just to back up a little bit, Team Film Crew is in room 2 right now. We're at the door of room 2 going into room 3. So the door that we're trying to open, we've got 2 prompts, and Lexie from Books with Lexie, who is running this whole thing, she is the mastermind. She has said that we could say what the prompts are. It won't give anything away. No one has the same prompts for any of the doors across different teams, so it's not a big deal. So our 2 prompts, one of them is to read a book without the words is the, of, or in the title. So when I submitted Familiar Spirit by Lisa Tuttle, that was for that prompt. And the other prompt is to read an author debut book. And for that, I decided to pick up on a whim last night, Seed by Anya Alborn, and that one I have had on my radar for a while, but I didn't really have an excuse to read it. But because of that one prompt we have at the door, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna read it. Took me freaking one night, picked it up, finished it, used audio, quick, easy. I think the ebook was on KU, and I think the audio I used Scribd. So I didn't have to spend anything on it. It was quick, it was easy, and it was a great read. I gave that a 4.5 star. I loved the end. I didn't love the body of the book as much as some of her other books. Like, I have read Within These Walls, which I actually liked Seed better overall than Within These Walls, but I like Brother the best out of all of the books I've read by her so far. So those are the 3 books I've read: Seed, Within These Walls, and Brother, and I like Brother the best. Really great last minute decision to just read it last night out of nowhere. That was a pleasant surprise. And then, because so few people are doing that prompt for reading an author debut, I decided to look for like a vintage author debut, and I decided to, on a whim, again, pick up Azarius, which is on KU as an ebook, so I'm using the KU version so I don't hurt my paperback version, even though, as you could see, it's not like in great shape or anything anyway. But anyway, I don't want to harm it even more. I don't want to harm it even more. I'm speaking weird. I don't want to harm it even more, so that's why I'm using that. Also, it has audio available, which is rare, but I'm not really liking the audio, to be honest. It's very choppy. In fact, I'll give you an example of what the audiobook is like. Even at high speeds, it's like this. It was the first storm of spring, and it proclaimed itself with a coarse roar of thunder that seemed to split open the sky. Gable lay in bed listening to the rain against his window, and the harsh breath of the wind that rattled, and you see how it's like start, stop, start, stop? The audio is very much like that, and it's distracting me. And I don't know if it's just the writing style itself or just the audiobook narrator. Now, when you have an older book like this, of course you're not going to have the greatest narrator ever. You're not going to have the best production quality because these are older books. Not as many people are reading older books as they are reading newer releases and looking for audio for newer releases, let's say. So that is the difference there. So I don't expect it to be like as great of quality as an audiobook for a newer book, but I kind of wish it was just better overall in terms of just the way it's so choppy. It's just giving me a hard time. I only read 6% or listened to 6% last night, and then I was like, I'm going to stop. I may not continue. Maybe we'll get through the door and I won't even need to read an author debut, but I wanted to read more Sidney Williams because I read his other old school vintage book called Nelfs, and Nelfs was so zany and fun that I thought this and his other books would be zany and fun. So far, the story hasn't kicked in completely yet, so I don't know if this is going to be as zany as Nelfs, but I picked it up in the hopes that it would be. But in terms of the writing style, I don't know if it's that or the audio itself, but I'm going to give it a little bit longer, but I may put this one aside. I do want to have another book that is vintage-like that I'm reading for this vlog, so we will see if I continue with this or I choose something else, and if it has to be an author debut or not, depending on if we get through the door soon or not. We'll see. Anyway, but in terms of vintage bonkers, awesome zaniness, this one, the plot has a lot of crazy things going on in a good way to where you're intrigued. It's reading very fast. I got to page 56, which I got 10 more pages because I was reading other stuff last night, and I didn't have much time to start this or continue with this. So I made some progress on other things, but made a lot of progress finishing things that, I hadn't even expected to read in terms of Seed, and then finishing up Familiar Spirit, which I had been working on for a couple of days. So I'm making progress. We're moving through the room. Go film crew! So that's where we are right now, and I'm having a lot of fun. And I don't know what Katrina or Andrew think of Familiar Spirit so far. I know Katrina was working on a vlog where she hadn't finished it, but she was saying that it felt like a 5-star for her at the time, but she hadn't finished it yet. So we will see what she says about it in one of her upcoming vlogs, I'm sure. But I loved it. 5 stars, baby, and that ain't bad for an old school paperback. That's actually pretty surprising. So that is all I have for you guys, and I will check in later. I am checking in again after quite a few days. I gotta say, a lot of days. It is Sunday, May 14th, and I am trying to wrap up this vlog. I am reading my last book for this vlog, which you saw me reading earlier, and I did check in when I was just, I think, 100 pages in. Now I am 180 pages in. This is Death Song, and it's taken me so long because I've been reading other things in between, and this is one of the only things I was reading physically, and I also read like a Kindle newer book physically. So let me go through with you guys before I check in on this about the other things I started and finished in between the beginning of this vlog and now. So I told you guys about reading Azarius by Sydney Williams and how I wasn't sure if I was going to continue. I did end up continuing. The audio stopped bothering me as much. However, the story never really fully picked up and never got as crazy or as interesting as Nelf's, and we're talking about like nowhere close. However, I'm still excited to read other Sydney Williams books, considering Azarius was his first book. Nelf's was like his, I think, 4th or 5th book. So I think he probably gets better and better, you know, as he goes in terms of, you know, writing more books. And Azarius had some wacky things in it, so it was entertaining, but I just didn't like how much police stuff was in it, and how much mystery stuff was in it, and how much God talk was in it. His plots of some of his other books that I've read the descriptions of, I think I would enjoy a little bit more than the premise of Azarius. So, it wasn't terrible, but definitely nowhere as entertaining as Nelf's, and just not as good as some of the other vintage horror books I've been reading this week. So I'm going to give it a 3, I believe, just because I think that's fair. Some elements I liked, but a lot of elements that I didn't like too. But overall, not so bad. Not the worst thing ever, of course. So I also decided to randomly start another vintage horror book, and I've already finished it as of now, so I didn't really get to check in about it. On a whim, I decided to read one of my 23 Paperbacks from Hell to read in 2023, which was Ash Wednesday by Chet Williamson. It's the first book I've ever read by him, and he's also an audiobook narrator, and I know I've listened to a book that he's narrated, I just can't remember which one it is, but he also narrated his own audio for the book he wrote, Ash Wednesday, that I picked up. His voice is great. It was so much better than the narrator for Azarius, and I really enjoyed it, and what surprised me was that it was so heartfelt and so deep of a book, and it wasn't really a pure horror book. I feel like it was mismarketed, because it was definitely marketed in the 80s as a horror book, but to me it read more like a weird fiction book, or just like a general fiction book with some darker elements. Like, there are ghosts in the book. The story, essentially, this town, this small town called Marydale wakes up, and all of a sudden, all around the town, these blue ghostly shapes are seen, and what it is, it's all of the people who passed away in the town kind of just standing there, like naked as they were found when they were dead. And so they don't do anything, they just kind of are there, and it freaks the people out who are there living and who have to see this every day. And it messes with people, especially 3 people who are going through guilt over certain things. And then these 3 stories that we're following and 3 characters we're following intersect. We also follow a few other characters in the town, so great way that they tied together. Emotional read. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting a campy, zany, good time, and it was not like that. It was still a wonderful read, beautifully written. I'm going to read more by Chet Williamson. Some of the other books, I'm not sure if they're going to lean more into horror, or if they're all going to be like Ash Wednesday and be more like thought-provoking and stuff of that nature. It did take a look at the Vietnam War and how people who fought in the Vietnam War struggled with guilt of what they had done, you know, while in the war when they got back home. It dealt with a lot of different things, specifically guilt, but also, you know, not forgetting the dead, I think, is part of the moral of the story, and remembering the lessons that we could learn from past generations, you know, stuff of that nature. I really enjoyed it, gave that a 4-star. And that was just on a whim that I decided to add it to my TBR. I also read a newer horror book on KU called The Nothing That Is, and it was a cosmic horror book, and there was a character named Mr. Dinosaur. This guy in a catering company decides to take this side job randomly, and the client is like, just call me Mr. Dinosaur or whatever. He asks for some weird things like a snake. He wants to eat a snake, and And lots of weird things start to happen when the guy goes to cater this event with this weirdo Mr. Dinosaur. Anyway, stuff happens, it's bonkers, it's crazy, it's weird. It'd be perfect for the Week of Weird, which my friend Crystal and Jason from Jason's Weird Reads, they put on a readathon not too long ago in March called the Week of Weird, and they might do it again this year. Crystal, you could find her at Fiber Artsy, she's magnificent. I think that book would be so perfect for a Week of Weird 2.0 if they did it again. And it's 1KU, it's short, it's quick, it's easy. I gave it a 5-star. I was blown away. I loved it. Definitely cosmic vibes. Really just strange out there. Enjoyed every second of it. I'm going to read more by that author. I really had a great time with that book, and it was so easy to read. Also, I started another newer horror book. I think it's an extreme book. It's called Found, and it's about a little boy. He's got an older brother, and he finds a severed head in his older brother's room. So I'm not too far into that, only like 30% into that. And I'm also still reading Death Song, so I'm currently trying to wrap that up. So far in the 80 more pages I've read, still more hardcore things are happening, more crazy, zany, out there, wild things are going down. This dude, his head exploded from maggots, like just supernatural stuff, I don't know, like that's, like, there's no real reason for the maggots, except this dude was like, yo, I want you to explode, maggots, bleh. Anyway, and also his leg exploded because of maggots, it, like, got all swollen up, and a poof, magnets, maggots, not magnets. I collect magnets, I don't want to collect maggots. Anyway, I cannot speak. Here's a magnet. It's a little Jason, look at him, he's cute. He's like, yo, Friday the 13th, yay! Anyway, okay, so that is where I'm at. I am on sprints, and I will check in with you guys. Probably, I won't check in again for Death Song until I finish it. And I don't think I'm forgetting anything else that I've started or finished in between when I last checked in and now. But it's been a while, so hopefully I remembered everything I had to talk about. If not, I will talk about it in the very last clip. Alright guys, see you later! I'm checking in. It's been a few days, so it is now Tuesday, May 16th, but I did finish Death Song by Douglas Borton over the weekend, and I also finished Found, which was the Kindle Unlimited book I was reading. Very powerful in terms of kind of disturbing. Oh, here comes Jackson. What are you doing? Oh, he just walked out. Or no, he's just standing there staring. Anyway, I freaking love this. This was so zany. I'm giving it a 4.5 star because it was so much fun. It was a blast. There was this guy who was obsessed with maggots, and he was dueling, or having a sing-off, against the main protagonist. Her name is Billy Lee Kidd. So I marked some passages because it was just ridiculous, where they were squaring off. Like, here we go. Let me read it to you, because it's just ridiculous and absurd, but in the best way.
I see you were expecting me,
he said.
Not exactly.
She tried to smile.
I was expecting somebody who could put up a fight.
He laughed.
Such spirit. I like that.
He met her eyes.
A duel, then? To the death?
She stared him down.
Uh-huh.
She said with all the courage she could find.
I'm taking you alive.
No, my dear, you are not taking me at all.
The two songs rose at the same instant and clashed like swords in the summer air. Just like how they describe it, like it's a literal duel, like a sword battle, but they're essentially just singing at each other. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And that dude is all like,
maggots. Everything is maggots.
So I love this. It was fun. It had a good ending. I had a great time. If you like old school vintage paperbacks and you're okay with the type of language it uses and the non-politically correct stuff, and you're used to that already, then this would be a great read for you because you'd probably really like it. Because the action really, it picks up pretty quickly and is pretty consistent throughout the whole book. Alright, I also, as I said, finished Found. I'm going to give that a 4-star. My friend Amy DNF'd that, I think she said, or gave it a 2. I can't remember which, but she definitely didn't enjoy it. I have torn feelings about Found because I feel like some of the character traits could have been expanded upon, but did the ending stick with me and disturb me? Yes. So I finished Found, finished Death Song. I think that makes 6 books I read in a week, because I read Familiar Spirit, Death Song, Azarius, Ash Wednesday, Found, and Seed. And yeah, I think that was pretty damn successful. So 4 old school vintage paperbacks and 2 newer school books, Found and Seed. And I enjoyed pretty much everything, so it was a very successful vlog. Azarius was probably my least favorite thing I read, which is a bummer because I loved the other book I read by Sydney Williams. Of course, that's Nelfs. And it just, when I went to read Azarius, I had expectations because of that, but it is his first book, so I'm still going to give his other books a try because they might get more zany as, you know, as he got more experience. I did want to show you that I got a freaking ARC in the mail from Tor Nightfire, and I'm very excited because I got emailed about if I wanted it, and I was like, oh hell yeah, look at this awesome freaking cover. It reminds me of a vintage horror book, but it's new. It's coming out in September of 2023, so September this year, and this is a chunker. It's over 400 pages. It's listed as 448 pages, but the description sounds freaking awesome. So Schrader's cord, and the description says,
After his estranged father's mysterious death, Charlie returns to Seattle to help with the funeral. There he discovers his father left him 2 parting gifts, the keys to the family record store and a strange black case containing 4 antique records that, according to legend, can open a gate to the land of the dead. When Charlie, his sister, and their 2 friends play the records, they unwittingly open a floodgate of unspeakable horror. As the darkness descends, they are stalked by a relentless, malevolent force, and see the dead everywhere they turn. With time running out, the only person who can help them is Charlie's resurrected father, who knows firsthand the awesome power the records have unleashed. But can they close the gate and silence Schrader's cord before it is too late?
Hell yeah, this sounds like my kind of book 100%, because it has a very vintage feeling, not only to the cover, as I said, but to the story itself. Just sounds like a ball. I think I'm gonna have a blast. I'm hoping I'm gonna love this. I'll definitely do a review on it on my channel or in a wrap-up or something. Since it won't come out till September, I'm probably gonna wait, and I won't read it this month during Escape the Readathon or anything, but especially because it's a chunker and I've got other chunky books that I'm working on. So last night, even though I didn't document this in my vlog, but just to tell you guys, I started and finished We Spread by Ian Reid. So powerful, so impactful. I could see why not everyone likes it. It leaves you with a lot of questions and it leaves you wondering. I had such a good time. I gave it a 4.5 star because it was just, I don't know, very compelling. I also started and finished the book Nana. It's like a Kindle Unlimited book, and I didn't like it. In fact, it kind of offended me how it painted the old people as, like, gross. And these particular old people were gross because they made a pact to, like, you know, live in an unnaturally long life, we learn later in the story. But I was like, I don't like how they're portraying old people as smelly and gross, and, like, I love older people. My freaking grandparents were, like, my favorite people on earth, and so my mama and papa, they meant the world to me, everything to me. I think about them every day, even though they're not around anymore. So something about the tone of the book just didn't sit right with me. I didn't like it, but I pushed through it because it was very, very short. So I finished that last night. By the way, we got through freaking room 3 and we're at the door to the next room. I was about to say to room 3. No, we're in room 3 at the doors leading out of room 3 into the next room. So the 2 doors right now that we're currently trying to open, one of the prompts you could do to try to open it is to read a book with only 2 words in the title, and that doesn't include the. So I actually was able to finish Death Song right after we got that prompt, so I used Death Song for that prompt, and that's perfect because Death Song, it's just 2 words. And also the other one is to read a book that you don't own. So the one that I didn't own was Nana. I submitted that because I borrowed it from KU. And I think We Spread, I counted that as the 2-word one. I could have done either because I got it from the library, but I decided to count it as the 2-word title because less people have used that prompt to try to open the door. I'm currently reading, I started Monstrio, which I don't know what I'm going to use for that. I think we'll be past the door by the time I finish that because there's no audio and I'm just reading it physically. It's beautiful. I freaking love the writing so far. I can tell it's going to be kind of sad and emotional, but also very unique. So yeah, Monstrio, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. That is Amy over at Amy Noel Reads. It's her book club pick for this month, and she is also a co-host of this event, and you can find her book club. It's called the Dark Hearts Book Club. You could find that through her channel. All of her videos have her Discord for that book club linked. Check it out. She's got great book club picks. And she picked the July book for my book club because she's a Patreon of mine, and every month I spin the wheel to let a Patreon member pick a book for my book club, which is a public book club, but my Patreon members get to pick out the book. Lately, I at first was letting them pick out a book and then put it in a poll, but it's easier just to let them pick. They've got good taste. They've got some banger recommendations so far. Lexie, also the creator of this readathon, she also picked out a book for my book club because she was chosen from the Patreon wheel, and she's a Patreon of mine. She chose my September book club pick, so I will be doing a video going through like the next couple of months and all the reads that we'll be doing for my book club, the Midnight Book Society. That's the name of my book club, and the link to our Discord is down below. Also the link to my Patreon if you want to help decide some of my content and help kind of determine the books, or have a potential to do that, because again, it's the name of the person is chosen from the wheel, but every time a person's chosen, I take them off the wheel, and then all the other Patreons have a chance to get chosen for the next month. So yay, exciting stuff. I'm reading a lot of awesome stuff. I did DNF a book, if I can remember what it was called. I wasn't in the mood for it after like disliking Nana. I wanted something that I was going to get into right away. So it was called They Don't Come Home Anymore by T.E. Gryu. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. It seemed like it was actually a zombie story, which would work for Zombie-thon, but I just didn't like the narration style. I couldn't get into it at all. So I just was like, I'm gonna put this aside, even though I probably could have finished it last night. It was only 104 pages on Kindle, and I would have counted it as a book I didn't own because it's Kindle Unlimited. So if that seemed intriguing to you, you could check it out. I just wasn't in the mood, and I decided to just start Monstrio, even though I don't think I'm gonna use it for any of the prompts. I think it's going to take me a while to finish, so I might start something shorter in the meantime, and you'll have to tune in to my next vlog to see. Thank you guys so much for joining me and for going along on this journey with me to see what I thought about all these books. I really think this was a successful
Paperbacks from hell
vlog, and that isn't always the case, so I'm pretty excited that this turned out so well. Alright guys, for this time, that is it for me. Till next time, you guys know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye guys!